just what has changed in the AFC East in terms of Dynasty. We're going to talk about that in today's video. As always, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be fantastic. Dynasty football. It is October 24th. We just finished week 7 of the NFL. We've been putting these videos out over the last couple of weeks, just kind of looking at season-ish, what has changed in terms of Dynasty. And, people always talk about Dynasty. It's long term, think a couple years ahead, and that's just not how Dynasty is anymore, really. It used to maybe be like that a little bit more, but with how fast we expect rookies to produce, and a lot more people getting into Dynasty that are still kind of used to the redraft mindset of winning this year and not looking beyond that. That's just not how Dynasty is anymore. So we got to adjust and keep up with the community. So we're just going to go through the AFC East and kind of look at, what's changed. We're not going to really touch upon things that haven't changed too much, but we will look upon like things that have changed. And we're just going to jump right into it. And we're going to start with the New York Jets. I think it's an interesting team to start with. So obviously you had the devastating injury to Aaron Rodgers. Should miss the year. Obviously there's talk about him potentially coming back. Kind of how I feel about Aaron Rodgers at the moment is if you went into the season with him as your QB2 or QB3, you were invested in him in that way. You went out and got him, or you just held on to him since forever ago. He's obviously dropped so much in value. He was the QB24 before his injury, and he dropped all the way. He's actually risen back to like QB30, QB29, but he did drop all the way down to like QB46. So maybe the rumors of him coming back have something to do with it. And basically, my point of view on Aaron Rodgers is that if you had him going into this year, I don't think you're going to be able to sell him for much. If someone's willing to give you a second round pick for Aaron Rodgers, I would take it. But if no one's willing to do that, or someone wants to give you a third, I think I'm just going to hold for now and just assume like, you know what, he's going to come back at least next year for one more year, and I'll be able to use him. So to me, he's a hold, and probably the best time to sell him at this point in his career, assuming we get one more year of him. The best time to sell Aaron Rodgers is either going to be right before the season starts next year, if he's healthy and going to play, because his value will be probably the highest it's going to be, or a month and a half around this time of the year next year, where if he's playing well, if he's playing as a top 15 quarterback, you could sell him then. You're just not going to get the value you have for him right now. Just hold on to him for now, unless someone's willing to pay you a second round pick or higher for him. So that's where I'm at with Aaron Rodgers. In terms of Zach Wilson, I was kind of telling people for Zach Wilson, go out and get him. Like, this was before the injury and all this. This was off season, before the season started. And I was saying, go out and get him. People are not valuing him whatsoever as anything, essentially. Like, he has no value. If someone was willing to trade, I was willing to trade like a third round pick to go out and get Zach Wilson, because I thought, not that I think he's good or anything, but I just thought, you know what? People aren't valuing him at all. He's going to get another chance. First round quarterbacks drafted second overall always get other chances. Look at guys like Sam Darnold. He bounced from New York and he got another chance in Carolina, and maybe he'll get even another chance. People will give him chances. Look at Geno Smith. Like, even Geno Smith, like, they gave him another chance because he was, he's a second round pick, but still, these high draft picks are going to get a chance. So I'm willing to go out there and spend. I would have been a third round pick. At this point, though, it's interesting because his value after the Rodgers injury went from like QB40 back up to like QB30, and then he started playing horribly and he dropped to like QB42, and now he's back up to like QB30 according to Keep Trade Cut. So what I would do with Zach Wilson is, again, he's a hold for me if I have him. He's, as of right now, he's QB29 on the year. He's closer to like the QB. He's averaging 11.1 points. He's not playing great, but I will say this: he's had a game where he looked good against the Chiefs. They beat the Eagles last week, which I'm sure gave them confidence. If at any point his value spikes, if he has a big game, if he has a good couple of games where he puts up 18, 19 points, that's the time to sell Zach Wilson. If you can get a second round pick for him, if you can get a first round pick, God forbid, for him, if you can get, a couple seconds or a second and a player, a developmental player, or even like 2 high third round picks for him, I would do it, because I don't think he's that good of a quarterback. I really don't. He'll have value to someone as a QB3 if he hits, if he starts to average 18 points a game, 17 points a game. But so just keep an eye on that. Like, coming off the bye, I think they get a little bit easier of a schedule here. So just be ready to sell Zach Wilson when the time's right. Definitely be ready. Breece Hall, I think all the worries about him, if you were able to get him low, congratulations. All the worries about him are kind of out the window. He's considered the RB3 on the in Dynasty, according to Keep Trade Cut. I think you can make the argument that could be even above McCaffrey as RB2 if you want to make the age argument. Obviously, McCaffrey's awesome, but Breece Hall is awesome himself. When it comes to guys like this, though, and I see an RB3 next to their name, I'm always interested in seeing what I can get for him. Again, if you're contending, you probably want to keep Breece Hall. If you're kind of like middle of the road, if someone's willing to give you a couple first round picks for him, a stud receiver for him, like, he's valued as an early first round pick. And if I could trade Breece Hall and I knew I was getting an early 2024, a top 4 2024 pick, I'm trading Breece Hall for that top 24 pick, because one, you're going to be able to trade more for it. So just kind of keep that in mind. Don't always shut down people as like, nope, I can't sell them. Even guys like Justin Jefferson you should always listen to offers. And at this point, our RB3, Breece Hall's RB3, he's basically in a tier with McCaffrey and Bijan. He essentially can't go up in value ever, right? And I know some people don't like to play Dynasty as like it's the stock market, but sometimes you do have to do it. And if you could tier down as well, like if you could do a tier down and pick up a piece, I'm doing it. With running backs, I'm almost always doing it. If I could tier down to a Jahmyr Gibbs and pick up a second round pick, I'm doing it. If I can tier down to even a Saquon Barkley and pick up and grab a pick, I'm going to do it, because running backs, their values can just disappear, right? We saw it with Breece Hall last year. Let me just double check. Breece Hall last year, RB4. Yeah, he didn't really dip too much, actually, which is good on us for not letting him dip too far. I mean, the lowest he got was like RB8, but look at guys like Nick Chubb, who have a devastating injury, and they go from a top 12 running back to they're worth nothing, So running backs are tough. Keep that in mind with Breece Hall. Garrett Wilson, another guy that definitely he's another good example of possibly his value was at an all-time high. He was up to wide receiver 3 at one point. Obviously, the Rodgers injury goes, and he's dropped to like wide receiver 10. So he's in like the wide receiver 6-7 range right now. That's fine. Again, like, you got to be careful with these guys whose part of their value is baked into their quarterback or the offense or the team they're on. And you can see how that just kind of disappears a little bit. Guys like Justin Jefferson, I don't really think his value, nothing's baked into his value besides that he's really good. Garrett Wilson was wide receiver 3 at one point because he had a good rookie season, but also because he was going to have Aaron Rodgers as his quarterback. So you got to be careful with situations like that, where it's not just purely his talent that's telling you that he is wide receiver 3. So again, I think better days are ahead for Garrett Wilson. If you have him, I think you should be very happy to have him. And I'm not really looking to move off of him unless someone blows me away with an amazing offer, because I think his value can go up. He's one of the few players where he's rated very, very high, but I think he can get to that tier 1 or high tier 2 type of player. So, with the Amon-Ra St. Browns and AJ Browns of the world. No one else really to talk about on the Jets, unless I'm forgetting someone. Like, we're not going to talk about Dalvin Cook or any of the receivers or anything. So we'll just move on. And we'll move on to the Buffalo Bills. Obviously with Josh Allen, he's right there. If you want to take it's Allen, Hurts, and Mahomes. It has been for the last year or so. Whoever you want to take out of those guys, take them. What's interesting about Josh Allen. Something I was slightly worried about, not completely. I was just slightly worried about was him running less and how is that going to affect his fantasy value. Now, I didn't think it was going to affect him too much because, he's obviously a gifted passer as well, but he is running less. Just double checking his rushing numbers. He has 29 carries for 150 yards through the first seven games. So I'm just double checking here. If I do the quick maths here, that's 21 yards a game. That's 365 yards. That would be the lowest in his career by far. The lowest previously was in 2020 where he had 420 yards. So we're talking about 80 yards less, which isn't a huge difference, but we're not at that level of 750 yards. Now, he still has 4 touchdowns, which that's big. If he's going to continue to get touchdowns, you're probably going to be okay. He's basically getting a touchdown every other game, and he's on pace to tie his career high in touchdowns. So the rushing yards, but you know what? It doesn't really matter, I guess is my point, because you look at Josh Allen, and he's the QB1. He's not having a massive season like he did, I believe, in 2021, he was averaging almost 25 points a game. 2020, he did average over 25 points a game. This year, he's under 23 and a half. That's just kind of the nature of quarterbacks at the moment. We're not getting these huge explosive seasons. We're not going to spend too much time on Josh Allen. Stephon Diggs is still awesome. Stephon Diggs, like if you're looking to make a push, and someone has Stephon Diggs as their, on a maybe potential rebuilding team, like go out and get Stephon Diggs because the dude's just awesome and he can potentially win you fantasy leagues. How much longer do we have of Diggs? I don't know. But he is only, he's going to turn 30 this year, I believe. Yeah, he's going to turn 30 in November. I would say you can bank on another year of Stephon Diggs next year. That's what I can say. Just double checking his contract because if he does go to another team, that is a little concerning. But Stephon Diggs is kind of like the perfect player that I would use him this year to try and win a championship and then sell him in the offseason if you can. He's going to be with Buffalo one more year, so they don't have an out until 2025. So Stephon Diggs is awesome. James Cook is an interesting one. If I had made this video 3 weeks ago, I would have said James Cook to me is an easy borderline top 12 running back in Dynasty, potentially easy top 15. Now I'm a little concerned, and he's risen a lot since the season started. In the preseason, he was like RB 22. He is up to like RB 13 to 16 range. I think the highest he got was RB 13. And I kind of agreed with that because he was getting 60% of the team's rushing. He was getting like a 15% target share. I'm worried about James Cook's dynasty value beyond this year because this team does not trust him at all in the passing game. And that's severely I think it's going to hurt his upside. They're not going to use him in the red zone. They're not going to use him in 2-minute drills. I don't know if he's ever going to get to the level of like the receiving running back that we thought he was going to be coming out. And I think that's where a lot of his value was. He's obviously a good runner. He's just, okay. So he's averaging 88 attempts he's had 88 attempts in 7 games. So he's averaging about 12 and a half attempts a game. And he has 17 catches in 7 games. So about 2.5 catches a game. That's kind of like, all right, we're looking at between 40 and low 40s in terms of catches. That's what he's on pace for. And we're talking about a guy who's potentially going to get 200 carries, which is really good. My problem is it's not that elite level. It's going to be very it's kind of an RB2 level, in my opinion, James Cook. And can he sneak into the top 12? Of course he can. But if you play in any type of half PPR, like you're looking at a top 15 guy. So, And I just don't know how long that's going to last. I really, really don't, because this team just does not trust him in the passing game, and that's really going to severely limit him. I'm kind of willing to get out on James Cook. Like, he's RB15 right now. If I can get out and get RB15 value, RB13 value, top 12 RB value, like, I'm gonna explore it. I'm definitely gonna be exploring it. And if you're talking about like for example, David Montgomery, I think David Montgomery, when he comes back from injury, if it's next week or the week after, from that point on, he's gonna have a better season than James Cook. So if you can get off of James Cook for a guy like David Montgomery, who people don't value maybe as much in Dynasty because of the age or whatever. If you could do that type of move, I would do that 100% because, and pick up a piece. So you're getting a second round pick and David Montgomery. It's going to help you this year. And we just don't know beyond this year for running backs. James Cook is not a running back that I can predict beyond this year. There's very few running backs: Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, maybe ETN. And that kind of ends the list. Maybe I'd have to go and look, but there's not many running backs you can look past that. So just be aware of that. If you can tear down and what people are thinking as a tear down to even like an Alvin Kamara, if you can pick up Alvin Kamara this year and grab a second round pick because people are like, oh no, James Cook, he's young, Dynasty, do it. Please do it, because James Cook could be kind of like nothing next year. He really could. There'll still be something, but he won't be. It's possible he's not top 15 running backs type of guy. So that's how I look at it with James Cook. Anyone else on the Bills? I mean, Dalton Kincaid, we're going to potentially see a breakout from him, so that's good to see. Gabe Davis is just kind of, he is what he is. Like, if you have him on your team and you're starting him, he's like a boom bust flex. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the Patriots. And man, this team is just scary. Like, I was never a big Mac Jones fan, and his value has, I imagine it's plummeted. At this point, you probably invested a first round pick in Mac Jones. You're not going to get anywhere close to it. Like, maybe you get a third. If you get a second for him, bye. I'm sending Mac Jones, even in a super flex. If he's your QB 3 or 4, see ya. Like, I'm sending him out. So, yeah, the highest he ever was like a top 12 quarterback. That was during his rookie year. Man, that's just the perfect prime example of like, ooh, I'm going to sell this guy now because I don't think he's very good. And this is the point of, just looking at the players is always good. I know a lot of people just look at the numbers or do the process stuff. And I agree with that side of it. But also just seeing with your own eyes just how good someone is also really, really important. So there's really not much to talk about on this team. It's just, Ramondre, like, his value has probably tanked a bit, which I don't blame people. Like, I think he's going to have a better season. He's still like a top 20 running back this year. We drafted him to be better than that. Another example of just like why you should get off of running backs as much as possible. Ramondre Stevenson was the RB12 at one point. He was the RB12. That was RB12, according to Keep Trade Cut, is a first round pick. If someone would have offered me a first round pick for Ramondre Stevenson, I'm doing it in a heartbeat. I don't care if I'm a contender or not. I'm going to find someone else. I'm going to find a Zach Moss. I'm going to find a Raheem Mostert. I'm going to find one of these guys that are just going to, no one's even looking at, and they're going to give me 80% or more of the value of Ramondre Stevenson, and I just picked up a first round pick. Running backs, man, you got to sell them at their peak, because the drop off is way too big, way too big. Even now, like, according to Keep Trade Cut, Ramondre's worth a late first. Please, I'll send that in a heartbeat. I don't care if I'm contending. I really don't care. So if you can tear down as well, another tear down here. I'm talking about tearing down. Man, if you could, for Ramondre, if you can go to Joe Mixon and pick up a third round pick, give it to me. If you can tear down to even like a James Conner, it's going to help you this year and you get a pick, do it. Just do it. Please do. Like, that's how you should approach the running back situation. And yeah, there's really no one else to talk about. Like, Kendrick Bourne's going to be okay for this year, but I'm not super excited. So we're just going to move off the Patriots again. Not a whole lot to talk about here. Into the Dolphins. I'm curious about Tua because he's risen, obviously. Tua has risen over the last 3 months. He hasn't risen too much. He's risen from like QB 13, and right now he's like QB 8. I'm curious, is this his peak? Because we've seen amazing games from Tua, and we've seen games where he struggles as well. Like, it's going to be very much like, I don't know how much of it is it Tua or is it the system, And a lot of people are going to say it's the system. He's not like Patrick Mahomes, which is just going to make it work with whoever he has there. It's going to be Tua's going to need a Tyreek Hill and a Waddle there. So I'm just curious, about stuff like that. Obviously, he has a lot of value. He's like a top 7 quarterback this year. And then Superflex, you need to get paid for that. You need to get at least 2 first-round picks for a top 7, 8 quarterback, in my opinion, probably even a little bit more. So I think he's going to be, if he finishes, for example, as like QB 7 this year, I think that could be the best year that we see from Tua, and he's going to fall more in that 10 to 15 range more often than not. But I could be wrong there because he's going to be connected to this offense and these skill position players at least for a couple more years. So speaking of the skill position players, Tyreek Hill, man, is absolutely awesome. He needs to be worth, I don't care that he's going to retire in 2.5 years. That doesn't mean anything to me. Tyreek Hill is going to be awesome for the rest of the season and the next, however long he plays. The dude's going to be awesome. If he plays for 2 more years, he's going to be awesome. You're talking about the wide receiver 1, true difference maker at the position. He's averaging 4 more points than Stephon Diggs, 4.5 points more than Stephon Diggs, who's number 2 at the position. You need to get at least 2 firsts from him. If you're rebuilding and you're doing a long rebuild, like I'm not competing this year or next year, then you should think about selling Tyreek Hill, but don't take anything less than like 2 first-round picks of value, or like a JSN and a first-round pick, or a stud young receiver and a first-round pick. Don't do that. If you are rebuilding this year, but you think you can contend next year, Tyreek Hill is going to be a very useful piece to you. So unless someone's willing to offer you multiple first-round picks for him, just hold him and just reap the benefits next year. Like, it's going to be awesome again next year. Jalen Waddle is another interesting guy here. Like, man, I'm just worried. Like, we're not going to see the Waddle. One, I'm worried, like, the dude's always injured constantly, like going to the blue tent, and it sucks. I don't want to see it, but it's just injury after injury. Like every game he seems to go out with some kind of injury, and he comes back a lot of times, but we haven't seen major production from him this year. Yeah, he's tough. Like, I'm not selling Waddle because he's kind of at his all-time low, the lowest he's been. He's still, according to Keep Trade Cut, wide receiver 8, so people aren't freaking out over him, but I'm not going to sell him off for anything lower than like a top 12 dynasty receiver. Now, again, if someone wants to offer me a couple first-round picks for him, I'd think about it, because I just don't know how good he's going to be this year. Like, it really is, they want to get Tyreek Hill to 2,000 yards, it feels like, and Waddle's just going to kind of continue to he'll have a big game here and there, but more often than not, I think he's going to be a 6-7 catch guy for 50 to 70 yards. And if he catches a touchdown, you're happy. If he doesn't, you're kind of like, eh. So I think we might be getting that from Waddle most year. And they're using their running backs. They want to run the ball, throwing to their tight ends and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind with Jalen Waddle. Still easily a top 10 dynasty receiver, though. Don't sell him for any less. And the running backs, Achane, he's another example of, like, do we need to sell him high? Do we need to sell Achane high? Because Achane is considered the RB7, and he's gone up 20 spots over the last 30 days. Man, like, I see that, and I know he's on this awesome offense, but holy crap, like, he's more valuable than Jahmyr Gibbs now. And I don't know, man. Like, again, I'm worried about these running backs. If someone's willing to give me a couple first round picks for Achane, if they're able to, like, I don't think he's at that ETN, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker level as like a true workhorse running back. We haven't seen him be a workhorse. And I know it's hard when you're scoring 50-yard touchdowns to get a lot of carries because you're just scoring on one big play. But I'd like to see him, because that efficiency is not going to last. I'd like to see situations of him getting the ball 15, 20 times a game through pass catching and carries and producing, showing he can get to that level, because he's not going to be this efficient. So if he's only getting 10, 12 touches a game, his value is going to be limited. So man, just keep that in mind with Achane. Like, he is the running back 7. Again, like, if someone's willing to offer me a boatload because they like Achane, maybe you could wait till he comes back from injury, but that is another thing to keep an eye on. Like, he got injured in the preseason because he was body slammed, and that's the only thing we're worried about with Achane is his size. And then he injured his knee. Now, I'm not saying he injured his knee because he's small, but when you're that small, you're more likely to get beat up and injured. So that's another thing to keep in mind with him. People are valuing him similarly to like Puka Nacua. Man, if you can trade them straight up or even add tack on a second round pick with Achane to get Nacua, I would 100% do it. 1000% do that. So I think that's it with the Dolphins. Mostert's a nice story. Just ride him out this year. If you're not contending, sell him for even a second round pick. I would sell him for, because again, next year he could just be nothing. This year he could get hurt and his value's gone. If he gets a knee injury, Mostert's value's gone. So if you're not contending, sell him for, no, don't just sell him for like a 4th round pick. Sell him for what you can. Like, don't try to get like 2 firsts or whatever, like RB1 value for him. If you can get a second round pick for him, I'd probably take it. And that's it. That is it for and if you're a contender, just keep Mostert and hopefully you win. But that's it for the real quick. Raheem Mostert is the perfect example of why we, just take these other running backs, like sell off these guys. If someone's willing to give you 2 first round picks for Achane and you do it, and then you just roll with the Raheem Mostert of next year, the Kyron Williams, the Zach Moss, the Brian Robinson of next year, like all these guys are top 12 guys. You're picking up incredible value and you're getting 70% of the production or more. That's the way to kind of approach running backs, in my opinion. So we're going to finish up there, guys. We'll be back with the NFC East next and the 2 South divisions. As always, like and subscribe, and we'll catch you guys all next time.